as General Paxton was talking about, the state of Texas is having to battle in court against the Biden administration for the Biden administration's abandonment of its obligation to secure the border. And one way in which we are able to battle against the Biden administration is through the court system. And not only has Kim Paxton stepped up and brought the legal actions that were needed, he's been winning those legal actions. And that has been a tremendous help to the people of Texas. To all of the attorneys general who join with us here today, as you all know, you are the top law enforcement officers in your respective states. That's not only a powerful role, it's an important and essential role. I thank you for the role that you play, but as you go about your daily duties in waging legal challenges to make sure that you're using the law to keep your community safe and keep your communities better, it is astonishing that one lawbreaker that we are having to wage legal action against is the President of the United States. There are laws passed by the United States Congress that the President is not enforcing. There are United States constitutional provisions that the President is not upholding. Somebody has to hold the President accountable for his abandonment of the rule of law in this country, and it is you all, the Attorney Generals across the entire country. You also need to do it not just because the Biden administration is abandoning the rule of law, but because the consequences of Biden's open border policies, because of the consequences of Biden's refusing to enforce the laws passed by Congress. Every single one of your states, the residents of your states, are facing consequences, sometimes deadly consequences, because of Biden's open border policies. You mentioned fentanyl. As you're going to hear more momentarily from the director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, who will elaborate on what I'm about to say. Over the past calendar year, the Texas Department of Public Safety and law enforcement here in Texas, they have seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in each of the states gathered here. I said that wrong. Every man, woman, and child in all of the states gathered here combined. That is how deadly this is. Doses to kill more than 222 million Americans are sweeping our states for one reason only. Joe Biden does not care that fentanyl is invading our states. If you look at the population group between the ages of 18 and 45, the leading cause of death over the past year is not COVID, is not cancer, it's not car wrecks. The leading cause of death of our fellow Americans ages 18 to 45 is fentanyl. And President Biden is doing nothing to address that fentanyl problem. The fentanyl is coming in from China through Mexico into the United States. Joe Biden does not care that people are dying today because of the open border policies that is allowing fentanyl to come into our country. There's another horrific crime occurring as a result of Biden's refusal to enforce the immigration laws, because of Biden's open invitation provided to the cartels to smuggle across our border victims of human trafficking and to continue to perpetuate that human trafficking across America. Either all of the states represented here today, or almost all of the states represented here today, they have human trafficking going on in their states as a result of the Biden open border policies. Joe Biden doesn't care about victims of human trafficking. If he cared, he would step up and do something about it. But he does not care about the carnage that he's causing to lives and communities across the entire country. As long as he can support his woke agenda, he's fine with American suffering. And yes, we're dealing with tragedies on our border here, with homes being invaded, ranches being ripped apart, lives being affected. But just as important, those lives are being affected across the entire country. Well, Texas is stepping up to do the federal government's job. We're not going to sit idly by while Joe Biden refuses to enforce the law. Texas is going to do everything needed for Texas to step up and secure the border. That included the state legislature appropriating $3 billion of Texas taxpayer money for Texas to secure the border. And that money goes to pay for additional Department of Public Safety officers, as well as about 10,000 National Guard, for them to step up and do what the federal government should be doing, and that is to secure our border. In addition to that, they are arresting smugglers, human traffickers, drug dealers, cartel members. They're arresting anybody who's coming into the state of Texas and violating a Texas law. That includes people who are illegally trespassing on Texas land who've come across the border illegally. And they're doing a tremendous job of addressing that. For Texas to be able to step up and better enforce the rule of law on our border and deal with the consequences of our border. This past year, I signed 15 new laws to crack down on the horrific crime of human trafficking. We created a new law to crack down on the manufacture or distribution of fentanyl, which is a felony that will put these people behind bars. And now Texas is building our own border wall because Biden is not stepping up to secure the border the way that it needs to. And so I thank all the attorneys general for being here to help us fight this on a national basis. As law enforcement officers from across the country, we join together because we all believe in something that the country was founded upon, and that is the rule of law. The rule of law that Joe Biden has abandoned. The rule of law that we, as law enforcement officers and governors, are going to step up and address. I know firsthand the important role that an attorney general can play in assisting governors. And so I thank you for the role that you're playing in assisting your governor, where collaboratively you all are protecting the safety and security of your communities. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't leave you all a proposed action item. There's something that I know the Attorney General of Texas has done. What I don't know is if you did it in collaboration with any other attorneys general across the country. We as a state, and General Paxton as the Attorney General, we've been working long before Biden's open border policies to crack down on the horrific crime of human trafficking, to try to eradicate human trafficking. When we learned that publications like Backpage and maybe some other publications were using advertisements or other publications to advertise to actually promote human trafficking, it's my understanding that General Paxton took legal action to shut it down. An action item that I would like to propose for General Paxton to consider with you all considering to join him. And that is, there is a horrific crime taking place as we gather here today. As Colonel McCraw can tell you more about here momentarily. Cartels in Mexico are using TikTok to advertise to recruit smugglers in Texas and San Antonio, Houston, and other cities in Texas and maybe some other states to advertise for smugglers for pay for them to smuggle people here in Texas, which would include victims of human trafficking. That must be shut down. And just like I think an injunction was taken against Backpage, similarly, possibly, an injunction could be used to shut down TikTok in its use of its device and platform to allow criminal activity to be perpetuated that leads to horrific human trafficking. TikTok should be ashamed, condemned, and have a legal action brought against it for promoting human trafficking in Texas and the United States of America. And so I thank you all very much for the role you all play. But I know for a fact that the person who's at the tip of the spear in dealing with the broken border crisis that Biden has created is the director of the Texas Department of Public Safety. His name is Steve McCraw, and Director McCraw, I turn it over to you at this time.
Thank you, Governor. I'm used to action items, starting with the Governor. First, going to the TikTok situation. I wasn't aware you're going to note that, but so one of our briefings, you noticed, picked up on it, clearly understand in terms of the scope and magnitude and how it's impacted. The cartels have long recruited our children on both sides of the border to do their deeds. And they ran out of children, they ran out of our children, so you look for different resources. They've certainly partnered with transnational and certainly state-based gangs to conduct operations, and we see that. But now using TikTok, we're seeing kids being recruited from around the state, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, coming down there in droves because of, as a result of this global mass migration event that we've seen, is there's just too many bodies that they cannot move outside the area of the border. And keep in mind, when you're talking about border security, they're not trying to smuggle something in to keep in the border. They're moving it to different transshipment centers around not just the state, but the entire nation. So what comes through these borders impacts each of you and your citizens in every community in Texas. And I'm sad for the impact that in West Virginia that fentanyl has had and the rest of the nation. We've for a while, thankfully, from a Texas standpoint, meth was our key problem drug, but now fentanyl is on the radar screen, and we're seeing some synthetic opiate overdoses we hadn't seen before, and dramatic increases, and we're worried about. And there's a reason for it, is what happened, and Governor, you know it well, you're an expert. And by the way, thank you for your leadership and always protecting Texas from threats, domestic and foreign. Clearly in the law enforcement community, we understand that, and we absolutely appreciate all your support for us in doing that. But at the end of the day, you know, when the governor says, hey, we need something done immediately, and keep in mind, it's not Border Patrol's fault. I mean, these are brave men and women that sacrifice their lives at any given day. And what they do is a tremendous national security function for the state of Texas and for the rest of the nation. But when they are overwhelmed, and we've had influxes before, but never to this level. We've never had over 1.3 million apprehensions in Texas, okay, in a calendar year. Never before. Going back to 1986 is the last time, and that was like 720,000. And so Border Patrol is swamped, overwhelmed. Not only that, they've got family units and unaccompanied children. So even their facilities are not made for those to be able to handle that. So you're taking the front line agents that are supposed to be on the river, and I realize in Arizona you're a little different location, okay, but in California, New Mexico, but we do have 64% of the border, Governor, I know, as you know, and unfortunately we have the least percentage of infrastructure to protect that border. So at the end of the day, when that happens, and you take Border Patrol off, then those are huge security gaps between the ports of entry. And the governor directed back in March 4th, exactly, okay? He implemented Operation Lone Star, made it very clear, deploy. That means, it means an intensified surge operation, patrol units, but our special agents and Texas Rangers as well, aircraft, tactical means all hands on deck. Get down there, fill the security gaps, and that's what we've been doing. And we've never seen anything like it in terms of it relates to fentanyl. And we didn't expect it, but our seizures increased over 1,200%, or actually 2,000% in that same period of time between January. So it's an enormous amount of drugs being taken off. But the same thing you were concerned about, transnational gangs, cartel operatives, and all the other things. We over 5 tons of methamphetamine to seize. So these, you know, we're a criminal corridor for the cartels, and they're exploiting us using the gangs. And we have retail distribution centers within our major urban areas. So you know, obviously, one of the 4 objectives you had is to fill those gaps, and we've been doing that, number 1. 2, you wanted to protect landowners, okay, from vandalism, from criminal trespass, from other crimes, like burglary, other habitations, and you were there talking to landowners, and they expected, they're Texans, their land needs the protection, so we've been doing that. Criminal trespassing, he put the capabilities in place, we're able to arrest somebody for criminal trespass and actually book them in a TDC jail. So we're in a better position, but you've also gave us another task, and that task is that caravans. Caravans don't need to be coming to Texas. And we saw what happened underneath the bridge in Del Rio, and how it overwhelmed the community and threatened the community. And you made it very clear that we'd be proactive, whether we have to put black and whites together, whether we're using right now tactical wire, concertina wire, or Connex boxes, it doesn't matter what it is, when caravans are headed here, we gotta stop it and be proactive and prevent in that regard. And the last one, real easy task, I don't know why I didn't think of it before, but secure the border, okay? And you can't do it unless you have infrastructure, period. And I don't know what you call it, you wanna call it, it doesn't matter. You have to have it, you have to have detection technology, and you have to have boots on the ground, okay? Plain and simple. And you can't secure it from Washington, you can only secure it from the river, and thank you for your leadership, and I can tell I've talked too much, thank you.
Well, let me get you to add one more. Let the public know how many people have been encountered coming across the border, how many arrests you all have made, and any other facts like that.
We've had over 10,000 arrests we've made, criminal arrests, and criminal trespass, over 2,500 criminal trespass arrests, which are embedded in that. We've had, between ourselves and National Guard and game wardens working together, we've had over 196, almost over 200,000 by now, individuals that were referred to, been apprehended and referred to Border Patrol. It's so important. In fact, you know, the recent discussion and was had by, and one of the guys on the panel was a guy named Rodney Scott, the former chief of the U.S. Border Patrol, made it very clear. He said, without Operation Lone Star, every one of those numbers would have been a got away. And every one of those pounds of drugs, those ton quantities of drugs we've seized, if not for the state of Texas stepping up, would have been gotaways. It would have entered into the traffic. And so it's been, they certainly recognize it, and I think people understand that that has an immediate impact. But you've been very clear. It's not just apprehending, it's not just in terms of seizing. Certainly, we've been running up the numbers, and we'll continue to do so, and do everything we can to staunch the flow, but be proactive and preventive to stop it from coming across the river. And so we look forward to working with you on that, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, hey, well, Colonel McCraw, thank you for your work and your team's work, and thanks for hosting this today, and Governor, thanks for making it happen.
Sure.
And I really, really appreciate your stand on immigration and the fight that you're leading across the nation. And I want to thank my fellow Attorney General for being here, I want to thank the media for being here, and I want to make very clear that if the Department of Homeland Security wants to still meet, we're going to be here for another day and a half, and so we're open to having those meetings instead of having them canceled. So thank you all for being here, and the Governor, thanks again for your work.
All right, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for being here. All media, we got to escort you outside. This concludes the media portion of the security brief, so thank you for coming.
We can exit over here where you came in.